This video is to help you when you're accomplishing your ALEKS homework on writing a function given a table of ordered pairs. So we have to come up with the equation that will produce this table of values here. So we need to come up with an equation such that if we input a 1, we're going to get out a -6. When we input a 2 into the equation, we're going to get out a -6. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to observe what's changing here. So from -5 to -6, we're subtracting 1. So -5 minus 1 is -6. And then from 6 to -6, we're subtracting 1. Every time we're subtracting 1 to get these values here. And then if we look at our input is just going up by 1 every time. Up by 1, etc. So the first thing I'm going to try is I'm going to take this -1, I'm going to multiply the -1 since we're subtracting 1 every time. I'm going to try to multiply by -1 to our input. So I'm going to take the input number and I'm going to multiply it by -1. So I'm going to take the first one here, and I'm going to input a 1 here. So -1 times 1 is -1, but it needs to be -5. So if I were to then subtract 4, let's see what happens. So if I take the input and then I subtract 4, I would get that -5. So I'm thinking the rule is to take the input, multiply it by -1, and then subtract 4. So I want to see if that works. Okay, so it worked for the first one. Let's try the second one. If I put in a 2, the input is 2. I would have -2 minus 4 is -6, which is the output there. Now I'm going to try the next one. Okay, so this time I'm going to input a 3. We would have -3 minus 4 is -7, and that's what we get for its output. Now it has to work for all of them, so I'm going to go ahead and try the next one here. So I'm going to input a 4. -1 times 4 is -4 minus 4 is -8. So it works. So now it wants us to do that for n. So if we input an n, our equation would look like this, which is the same thing as -n minus 4. That is our answer. Let's go ahead and try one more. Okay, so same objective. We're trying to write a function rule for the given table here. So first of all, I'm looking, and from 6 to 10, we're adding 4. And then we're adding 4. Every time we're adding 4. It's going up by 4. And our input is just going up by 1 every time. So I'm going to try, what if I take 4 and I multiply, so I times it by the output number, by the input number. Let's see what happens. So if I take 4 and I multiply by 1, I would get 4, but it needs to be 6, so I need to add on 2 more to get 6. So let's see if this rule would work. If I multiply by 4 and then add 2. Okay, so now let's try the 2. So if I input a 2, will I get out 10? And we do. So now let's try 3. When we input a 3, we get 14, which is that number right there. It was a 14. Let's do one more. So when we input a 4, we'd have 16 plus 2, which is 18, and that's our output here. So when we input the number, the output, which is n, the input is n, so when we put in n and multiply it by 4 and then add 2, this is the rule that will get us any of the numbers in the table. Multiply by 4 and then add 2. So that is our answer.